Hello and welcome. We are in episode 14. So delighted to be with you again. My name is Maeve. I'm a transformational coach here in Ireland, and I'm joined as ever by the amazing Gary Benoit, all the way over the other side of the Atlantic in Alberta, Canada. And we are absolutely thrilled to have you with us here today. Gary is a retired police officer. He is a certified coach and licensed financial planner. He is author of the amazing book, A Call for Service. I highly recommend it. For those of you on my side of the Atlantic, it's available on Amazon. And for those of you in Canada, I'm sure you can probably reach out to Gary directly as well, but also on Amazon for you guys. And I suppose it's fair to say, Gary, that we've probably spent a lifetime, both of us, getting to where we are now, and
Yes.
that our passion is for, causing transformation in our own lives and increasingly to teach that to others. So
Right.
here we are in episode 14.
Yeah,
And again, an ambition realized for
for
us
sure.
both in many ways to be sharing this podcast and to be growing and the number of people that we can reach to really bring these principles to life in the world and to enable ourselves and others to create transformation, life change transformation. That's what it's all about. We're
Right.
not supposed to not change, are we?
Right. No,
So
you know what? You talk about a lifetime. I joined policing to serve the community and be that person there and help the community and help it grow and thrive and be a safe place to live.
yeah.
Ultimately, going through life, we have trials and tribulations. We have ups and downs, and this work came to me as a result of being in a place that wasn't great. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity just to even be involved. And now my passion really, and as yours, is to just share with others, and let's see if we can make the world just a little bit better, right? And that's
Yeah.
the really driving goal behind all of this. And I think that comes back to our topic today. I think our topic is going to be around spirituality and what that means as we continue to navigate the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and if ever the world needed it, it's now,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah. So Gary, we talked about the word spirituality in preparation for today's podcast, and I guess it can be kind of triggering for some of us, or
Sometimes.
we talked about the power of language the last day, and we will do an episode on language. But spirituality, how about you give us your take on what it
Hmm.
means for you? Because it's not about religion,
No,
at least it doesn't have to be about
doesn't have to
religion.
be.
So,
Right. For me, it's not. Like, I was, I'm a Christian. I was born Catholic, baptized into the Catholic Church, and not that there's anything wrong with that religion. It doesn't resonate with me as a kid growing up. It didn't mean anything. It was weird for me growing up. It was strange. Um, but ultimately, spirituality for me, um, where I really find my connection with it, because I do believe that we cannot do life on our own. I think there's always a greater power at work that's bigger than me, right? And for us, I mean, my family and my heritage is First Nations in Canada. So my mom and dad, or my dad and my grandfather and his ancestors were all Aboriginal Mi'kmaq, Mi'kmaq people. They're, descending from that group of people that came from the Acadias and moved to Newfoundland in the 1800s when there was stuff going on there. But the connection to that side of my history or my lineage is really important, and I really love the fact that they connect with Mother Earth, and it's about using things that are ancestrally just it's just a cool thing that it's a medicine wheel is really important in our culture. When we do like different smudges, and smudging is just like meditating, right? You just have some sage, and you use the smoke to sort of clear your thoughts and clear your eyes and see what's in front of you, and use those tools to really connect with that other side of us, which is the spirit side, in my opinion. Because you said it best when we were talking, is that we're just a human having a spiritual being having human experience, is what we are, right?
mm,
And so, like, and for me, when I consider what it looks like, there's one piece of the wheel when we're doing the smudge, when we smudge to the west. So for us, smudging to the west, that's where the sun, of course, is usually shining from the east. It casts a shadow in the west, and um, that shadow, those shadows that are laying on the ground as I'm standing there, they're my ancestors standing with me. I'm just they're following behind me. They're always with me, and the knowledge and and all of the historical stuff that comes with that, and through their years and years and years of being around on the planet are with me. I just have to tap into it, right? I just
Mm.
have to go through that for that piece of wisdom. And so that to me is really, really cool. And I really resonate with that. And that means a lot to me. And so I use that quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I think I don't think it was Oprah said this first, but somebody said, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and all the people who went before us, they're giants, and they're all there. We connect with that in different ways. Your heritage, it's really beautiful that when you see that shadow, that they're all there and they've
Hmm.
got your back, I think
Hmm.
is what it says to me. And I love that as an analogy that we have people who've got our back.
Hmm.
And especially when we're creating a vision, right? And we're living
Hmm.
into a vision, oftentimes, the people around us in life as we know it, they don't necessarily want us to change a whole lot. So
Sometimes I
so
don't.
you need to know you got people at your back who are,
Yeah.
doing that, hoping for you. And of course, each of us, as we arrive into this life, we are the dreams of the generations that went before
Sure.
us. We're their dreams come true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's beautiful synergy in all of that.
Yeah.
I think for me, spirituality, I mean, I grew up Catholic too. In many respects, I don't really practice as a Catholic anymore, but when I think of God, I do probably imagine that kind of fatherly figure that anybody who was raised in a Christian tradition would probably have that kind of imagery.
Hmm.
That said, in my own lexicon, the word I use is
Hmm.
spirit or source would be the two word. Infinite intelligence would be another word that I connect with and that I
Hmm.
would use with my clients. But I think again, and for listeners listening, if you engage with Jesus or Mary or God or Buddha or Allah or any of the great
For
masters,
sure.
if that's your connection, you honor that and keep going with that. If you don't have a connection like that, ancestral ways, indigenous ways of engaging with the earth, with the environment, with nature, I mean, at life, the universe, love. I mean, at the end of the day, I think every world religion, what they're speaking about is love.
Absolutely.
So finding a way, I like whatever language you use, whatever works for you. I would invite our listeners today to really get curious about how do I engage with that awareness that there's something bigger than me going
Right.
on here.
Absolutely.
Because it's in the absence of that, it can all feel very meaningless, really, I
Truthfully,
think.
it can, right? And like I know there's people that I've talked to, and they claim not to be spiritual people. And I think, you know, I think there's a piece of us that always has a bit of that, that spirituality piece deep inside of us. We just haven't explored it, or we haven't allowed us to recognize it. And it could be, once again, it could be God, it could be Jesus, it could be really truthfully any of those symbols that you want to use, like in that way. If it's the Bible, if it's the teachings of the Bible, then that's amazing. And I absolutely, please continue doing what you're doing. I think it's amazing. All of it to me. It doesn't matter where it is. Well, you know, there's lots of people I've talked to that use the word universe.
Yeah.
Some believe in astrology, right? The stars and that kind of stuff. And whatever it is that you connect with, I think is really important to just know it and own. I mean, you can say own it. I think own it is great. I think you just own that piece of it
Yeah.
because as we go through these, you know, as we go through life, as we go through and we look to the transformation piece of where we're at, the spirit side, I think, becomes stronger as you become more aware. I think as you get more aware of things and you start to believe in things that are happening to you, you're like, wow, that happened in just kind of the way I had dreamed it up. Without, you're putting the work in, you're doing the things. The next thing you know, things are starting to happen for you, and that's really, really cool. If I was to reflect back on my life, I think I look back in my early years of policing, And I was involved in a lot of things that would shock people, I'm sure. Um, Even for me, I still have to go back and think, is that did actually really happen? And, and I'm lucky to be alive on a couple of occasions, not just one, but multiple occasions. I'm lucky to be still be here, and I'm grateful for still be here. And I at the time I would have thought that I wasn't very spiritual in the moment, but I think deep down I probably had a piece of me that believed that there was a guardian angel on my shoulder,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I have to accredit it to my grandmother, I think, because like I talked to her, and she, when I didn't realize this until I was into my years of policing, and she was a bit older, and we were talking about things, and she told me that she prays for all of her kids, grandkids, and she says a prayer for every single one of them. And there's a lot of us. Like, I mean, she spends out 2 hours a night in her prayers,
Wow.
and she's been doing it since she can remember. And she does that because she believes it helps people in that spirit piece that even if you're not engaged with it, she's hoping that it, touches them in some way.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sure it does.
And now that I become more aware of that piece of it and become more aware of the spiritual side of things and the fact that I connect more with this ancestral side of where we come from, I truly, truly believe, without a doubt, I had someone standing on my shoulder and looking out for me in that moment, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. And without it, I wouldn't be here. So I think that's really, really cool to reflect that way, you know?
Yeah. And I suppose we talk about when we're creating a vision and we're creating new results in our lives, that we don't have to do that on our own. And a big part of that is having community and having structures of support, whether that's a coach or a mentor or a counselor or a therapist, any of those kind of support professions. But I think there's something that's really magical, special in knowing that I have within me a guidance and a support structure that is
Absolutely.
always there, that's always on my side. I don't have to pay for it. I don't have to do anything to warrant it or merit it. It is just there. The only thing I have to do is to tune into it. And again, all the different things that I've read. I mean, I've read in lots of different religions, but people talk about our angels are there, that spirit is there, but we have to invite that guidance, because again, we talk spiritual beings having a human experience, we have free will.
Hmm.
So spirit or God or the angels or the universe, it's not going to intervene unless we say, yo,
Yeah.
come over here, please.
What do you
I
have?
need a little bit of help.
What do you have to say here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to invite that.
Yeah.
So again, for people listening, you might do that through prayer, might do that through meditation, you might do that through journaling. You may have ways of doing that already.
Hmm.
But Gary, for anybody who kind of feels I don't have that, I have no idea where I would start with that. What would you suggest?
Gratitude, because that was me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I was the guy that if you came to me in like 2010, let's say, that was a few years ago, 14 years ago, and said, "Hey, ask me that question," I would have said, "No, not a chance. I'm not spiritual." I would have argued against it entirely. Um,
Okay.
when I started this work and I started to really look at things from a different perspective, because I needed to uh, fix my family and be there for my family and be more present in the moment and live my life better, because I was in a place that was difficult. The gratitude is the thing that started it for me. And
Okay.
and so as soon as I went to gratitude and I would just write down things, and what I realized is it opened the door then for that intuitive connection to the spiritual side of me, because I think gratitude is one of the highest energetic things you can do in the moment, right? In that I'm grateful for this.
Okay.
And now as I'm now into it, and I believe what we're talking about here, I have a greater belief in it all. Um, it's just finding that resonance. It's finding that ability or that thing that you can just it just makes sense. And you'll know it because intuitively you'll know it inside. You talk about the
Yeah.
intuitive side of you. We all have intuition. We're born with it.
Yes.
It's bred into us. It's part of our human nature. It's just what we do. It's what we have because back in the day you had to have intuition to survive, to live, to right. That's why we have those like spidey senses. Those, well, that doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
That doesn't feel right, right. And I think that intuition side now it's about being more like you talked about it before we got going here was about well, you could just ask any object if you're walking along and you recognize or you become aware of something, a nice rock or a glimmery object or a tree that stands out to you. You could ask it a question. What do you have? What message do you have for me? Right, and that intuitive voice will give
Yeah.
you a message. Right.
Yes, it can, and it doesn't have to be outdoors, it could
No,
be
it
the
can be a
pen
pen. It can
or the
be
mug or,
yeah.
whatever. And what that for me was the question that opened up that kind of, because prayer, I fell out of that practice as an adult. It doesn't really do it for me.
Yep.
Um, so in the absence of that, for me, as someone who grew up with it and then fell out of it, in the absence of prayer, I didn't know what to do to connect with
Fair.
anything that was kind of spiritual or whatever. And it was when I was introduced to that question that I could say to anything, what message do you have for me? I could open a book and just say, what message is in this for me today? And a random page, and I could look at that page, and there would be a sentence or a word or a phrase that will stand out. And you think, okay, and like you said, you just know that that's the thing I'm supposed to see and
Hmm.
notice in this moment. So I think for those of you listening today, to do even if you have a great practice already, you can just have fun with that practice of saying to things, what message do you have for
Hmm.
me today? When you notice you're contractive or you notice that, you're worried about somebody or something in your life and just say, okay, well, there has to be some sign and signal from spirit that will help me with this. And pick it, even looking here, there's images behind me on the shelves, the candle, what message do you have for me today? And we will get a message. We absolutely will get a message. And there'll be, for the doubters here on the call and listening to the recording, you'll be thinking, I don't get any of those messages. But I tell you, like Gandhi said, we all have that voice
Hmm.
inside of us, that intuitive capacity inside of us, and it is as loud as our willingness to listen.
Right.
And as adults, many of us, we've just stopped listening, or we've stopped trusting. We still hear it, but we don't do anything with it. So the invitation from today is to kind of, do the experiment
For sure.
and invite the insights, invite the guidance, ask for the messages, and then take them.
I think the
Take
thing too
them.
is we when I first started this piece of it because I do this as well and I've worked very intently trying to develop a better sense of that intuitive voice that comes through. My logical brain tends to dismiss that first message.
Yeah.
So, for example, when you said, "Well, ask the candle," so I just in my mind I asked the candle as I'm staring at the candle the message was just keep shining brightly. That was the first thought that came to my mind. Well, that's that intuitive voice saying keep that's that intuition right there. It's keep shining brightly. Someone else might get that, ask the same question of that same object and
Yeah. Yeah.
get a totally different message. And that message we tend to dismiss. Well, that can't be it. Right. We tend to go, really? That's what it, no, that can't be it. Right. And, but that's that intuitive voice, understanding that first thought, that first whatever comes into your mind is coming from somewhere. It's coming from spirit. It's coming from that infinite intelligence that's telling you to do or to continue to or to be a certain way. And
Yeah.
it means something for everybody differently, right? Like that meaning can be totally different for the person that's receiving it,
Yeah.
right? And only
Yeah.
you know what that meaning is, and only you can apply
Yes.
that meaning,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
that message was for me, and
Exactly.
I'm the only person that can really interpret that. in whatever way I want to.
Yeah.
And I have the option to also dismiss it,
Well, of course, because again, we still have free will, don't
right?
we?
And so I think that's the
So,
key here, is that that spirit is always talking to us if we allow, the allowance or the ability to say, recognize this is that message, and what does that mean for me? For the purpose of what is
yes.
another great follow-up question,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
right?
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you get those messages, that first message may be kind of vague,
Vague.
or uh, not specific, and okay, shine brightly for the purpose of what? And then you get the next message, and then if that one doesn't quite, okay, for the purpose of what? And you can, and next thing you know, if you continue to be curious inside of that question, you'll end up hashing out what that true message was for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a really cool exercise. If you have the opportunity as listeners to leave the call today and just literally be intentional, and take that very first thought that comes to your mind, go out and ask, find an object that stands out to you in the room, and just ask that question. Just ask it. And then get the message, write it down for the purpose of what, and then write the next message down. And go down until you know exactly what that looks like. It's a great exercise. And
Yeah.
and you'd be surprised, I think, at what actually shows up for you in that moment. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's just so cool.
Well, and in my experience with all of this is that it just kind of grounds you or gives you reassurance that you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing, or if you're not, it points you towards what the next thing is, and you just have that kind of reassurance or assurance that okay, I keep going or stop and do this instead or whatever it is. Um yeah, and I think again it's kind of like a conversation. It's not like you're
Yeah,
just asking a question and you get an answer and you're left with, I don't know if I understand that, or what does that really mean, or is that really what I think it is? We can say, can you clarify that, or what exactly does that mean, or in the for the purpose of what, or in what context, and or I often end up saying, can you answer me here in something that I know is irrefutably for me and that I can't not understand, that please express it in a way that I can, absolutely
yeah,
understand. And again, it's kind of, when we talk about, if we're engaging, if we build a relationship with a friend, any of us, with our partners or spouses or girlfriends or boyfriends we've had for life, that understanding, and we know what they mean when they say something because we've been listening to them saying
right,
things for a long time, and we've built a relationship and we've built understanding. It's the same with that internal guidance system,
for
or with
sure.
spirit, that like if we build a relationship and we're engaging more and more frequently, we understand better how we're being
Absolutely.
spoken to, and what the meaning is of what's being said, and that
Right,
just frankly just requires a bit of practice and willingness to
right,
engage.
right. And
Yeah.
there's thought comes to my mind is that there's a mentor that I know, that this person uh, has conversations with God, and that's her tapping into intuition, and
Yeah.
those conversations, they may seem one-sided because you're the one as the person that's here right now conversing or asking the questions of God, or and there's a lot of clarifying. Okay, you get those first messages, and then you write that question or the answer down that comes to you, and then you just continue to converse and say, have that conversation. Well, what does this mean, or what does this have? Whatever question comes to you in that moment, you ask that question of it, right? And it's such a cool experience. I think some people might think that that's right out to lunch, but I don't. I think it's just one of those things where if you believe in it, if you have belief in that intuitive side of that spirit side, because we all are guided by something. We all have these dreams that we have. Like ultimately, we talked about building a vision. We've talked about having greater meaning in your life and you want to transform your life into something that you absolutely love, well, that comes from somewhere. That desire comes from
Exactly.
somewhere,
Yes. Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so you may
Yes.
not 100% believe in the conversation piece, but that desire, that idea you had, where did it come from? It had to come from somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that's just spirit talking to you in that way. And that's that spiritual side of us that we need to tap into because and then of course our human body and our experience here have to do the action steps to get to that and to continue to do, tap in and ask questions. But like that idea came from somewhere, right?
Yeah. And you and I would say spirit
Right.
or
Yeah.
Mother Earth
Yeah.
or the
Like,
universe
right.
or God. Yes.
That
Yeah.
came from somewhere.
And the big thing I would say to anybody listening today who's kind of just either think we're out to lunch or that, they doubt that or that they have that capacity. I would say you don't have to take our word for it. Do your own experiment.
Absolutely.
Do your own experiment with it. And again, there's times, I don't always feel very spiritual, I have to say. But there have been times when either out in nature or sometimes when I'm in the sea,
Yep.
and I'm just transported into, I don't know, just a feeling of rightness in some way.
Hmm.
Or it can be, when we kind of have a sense of awe, you can be transported by music or I don't know, if you see like a baby being born or you see lambs being born or animals being born, it like you just I don't know, to me in my experience anyway, it's just like there just has to be some kind of infinite intelligence
Yeah.
at work here. Like I often say at the moment, Gary, we have swallows. They come back,
Okay.
so they come to Ireland this time of the year. They go back to Africa over winter. But what we know from people who study these things is like the swallows who come back to my yard are the same swallows that were here last year, right? And they come back. Like to me, there just has to be some kind of intelligence at
For
work
sure.
in the world that can have a little bird that size fly those kinds of distances and come back to the same nest.
Right.
Like that's just mad,
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Like as in just beyond intelligence, my human intelligence.
Right.
So like there's things in for all of us, we'll access it in different ways, but for everybody listening today, where are the like is it music, is it nature, is it
Hmm.
is it great literature, is it in a church or a synagogue or a graveyard or wherever it is? But wherever you feel that kind of sense of awe and sense of knowing that there's got to be more going on here than I can hold in my head, wherever you feel that, I would also say, make sure you're getting more of that in your life,
Hmm.
and if it's prayer and meditation as well, just make sure you're getting as much of it as you can
Hmm.
because it's that kind of those moments and those insights and that awareness that those are the things that I think can just kind of catapult us. On the human level, we can be beavering away, and we're doing what we're doing. But when we have those moments of just absolute assurance, I'm on the right track. This is so meaningful. This is the right thing, or don't do that, do this, and you just know even though everything practical and logical is saying you have to do it this way, but you just know when you have that idea, you just know that'll work. That's it. That's where I need to put my energy and my attention. It's just everything is so more meaningful and worthwhile. And there is that sense of ease and grace that we
Hmm.
talked about that we just can't create on our own, I
Sure.
believe.
As we come
Yeah.
to the end here, what comes to mind, what stands to mind is the skeptical person. I want to just speak to that person right now a little bit. I was that person. Um, so if I can offer anything to the person who's going, nah, doesn't sound right to me, pardon me, is to just consider for a moment, just consider for one moment what it looks like if you were to, take a moment and just do that experiment. Just consider well, what would my life look like if I just try this? What do you have to lose? Right? If it doesn't work, hey, no problem. Yeah, that didn't work. But what if it does?
Yeah.
What if you and not just consider doing it, but consider doing it with a real open mind. Don't be, consider opening your mind and saying, "Okay, this is I'm going to really lean into this idea for a minute." Right? And just what does it mean for me to have spirit? What resonates with me? And then what can I do to tap into my intuitive nature and that side of me that is intuitively fed from the infinite intelligence or spirit or universe or God or whatever that is for you. I mean, just consider what that looks like for you and consider the absolute benefit that could come from it if you decide for it. And
Yeah.
so, I'm not telling you to go do this. I'm not saying you should go do this. I'm just saying just consider what it looks like for you, because I was skeptical and I was willing enough in that moment to just open myself up to the idea of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
where has it brought me? Well, it has brought me to here today. And I would not be here without it, without considering that idea as an option. So just that's one thing I want to leave with. I want to end with is that just think about it.
Yeah. And I would say, don't just do an experiment one day, one time. I would say, like, do 30 days, 90
Yes.
days of an experiment. Do start with a gratitude practice, build it up, or
Yeah.
start with, every day I'm going to just ask one thing, what's your message for me? And just pay attention. And it might feel really random at the start, but a week in and you notice I'm kind of getting the same message
Hmm.
here, or I'm hearing the same word all the time, or or I'm passing a billboard and there's a word or a destination or an object, I don't know, whatever, and I'm noticing it, and pay attention, because of course spirit doesn't speak in kind of logical ways all the
Right.
time as
Yeah.
well. And maybe it's fair to acknowledge that to everybody today, that you might ask a question like, I don't know, where should I want to move jobs, like where should I go next, and you might get an answer that says, go buy flowers, and I've learned to live with this and work with this, because it's when you go buy the flowers that you see the advert for the job, or
Hmm.
you go buy the flowers and somebody there, you overhear them talking about
Yeah.
an opening that's coming up someplace else. So just don't expect it to always make sense.
Right.
We join the dots afterwards, but I would say, Gary, for you and I, and all of you who like this podcast and who listen to this podcast, it was absolutely the outpouring of spiritual insight and intuition and guidance that you and I both got to do
100%.
this work together.
100%.
So, definitely you're listening to people who believe in infinite intelligence and guidance, and you can believe in our belief for sure. But the invitation definitely is to do your own
Yes.
experiment with it
Absolutely.
and see where that takes you. See where that
Absolutely.
takes you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to finish with one last idea. And if people are interested in this, I wrote a blog on this recently called The Spirituality of Smiling. I think I called it. You'll find it on my website. But I think what I've learned anyway, and I'm a smiley person, okay, but what I have learned is that if I have an idea about something, or I'm thinking, should I do this or should I do that? Or, in terms of my vision, would I really love to do the 2K swim or not? What I notice is when I'm thinking about it, if I'm just smiling, and I'm
Mm,
not forcing myself to smile, I'm just noticing when I think about that, I'm
that's
smiling. When
awesome.
I think about that person, it brings a smile to my face. When I'm thinking about, eating that kind of food or going to that kind of destination of a holiday, or, buying that type of car, in all the decisions and choices I'm making, when I'm noticing I'm smiling
Hmm.
at the thought of one rather than another, I've learned to interpret the smile as spiritual.
Nice.
So I'm
Awesome.
going to leave people with that thought today.
Awesome. So, well, thank you, Maeve. That was amazing. People, have fun with this. Have fun with this. Have fun with this. Just truthfully lean in and just give it a chance. Give it a try. And we love you for it. And we love you all for, thank you for connecting with us. Thanks for tuning into us. Thanks for, continuing to show up every week for us. It's amazing and we love it. And like I say, we're in a whole bunch of countries now, and it's really, really cool to see that and that engagement. And so thank you for that. And thank you, Maeve, as always, a superstar in your own right. It's amazing to see you do those things. And
Thank you, Gary.
I love the information today. I really truly think this is one of the best yet. So thank you very much. And we will
And you,
see
my
you.
dear.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thanks, guys.